The worst thing in this world is to be successful and have to look over your shoulder. He's like, you want to be successful, do it on your own and be honest and have integrity, not doing the wrong thing.
David Perlleshi is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, and community builder recognized for developing local economic growth, small business empowerment, and leadership transformation. Today, he mentors young men and aspiring entrepreneurs, helping them unlock potential they never knew they had in the field of real estate.
A lot of kind of growing up, what was instilled in us was just honor, integrity, respect, discipline. Can I get ahead faster by being dishonest and not being a genuine person? Sure, absolutely. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if people don't want to do business with me because I'm authentic and I'm being 100% honest in what I'm doing every day, so be it. Your friends are always going to be your friends, no matter what. However, that doesn't mean that's who you need to associate with every single day. You want to be a real estate investor? Start hanging around. And I have most of my family members are guidance counselors, teachers. My brother is an electrician, and they just don't understand that level of like what I do. They think I'm crazy. They're just like, wait, like
they always do.
I had a cousin who was like, wait, you don't get a consistent paycheck?
You don't have healthcare? Yeah. My friend, you don't have healthcare? Yeah. Fuck you mean? Yeah, I pay $36,000 a year for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm able to earn 10x because I'm not constricted to those limited beliefs that I got to trade my time for money and punch in and punch out. So,
but it's also different too, right? Like where they look at their work and how to accumulate wealth or money, they associate it with like an hourly wage. Correct. Or they associate it with like a salary. And the way that I look at earning money and earning capital is like through relationships and through meetings and being well rested for when I have to take out Sean out to breakfast because I have to be 100% sharp that morning. Right? Because now I'm not only representing myself, I'm representing my company and my business and what we can do to help Sean. Maybe not in that very instance, but down the road, right? Like, hey, let me feed him inventory. Let me have a discussion about what he's looking for. How can I add value to his team, his company, his businesses? And I'm always trying to dissect how we can kind of interject ourselves to help you out in some type of way. Because at the end of the day, the way that we both make money is by first me helping you either buy something or, hey, have you thought about doing this at your property or your investment deal? And if you haven't, and now you've implemented that strategy or that revenue generating, like move or situation, now it's like, hey, like Dave is actually here to help me actually build things.
And you take the approach of how can I add value to this person?
Absolutely.
So it's not the old school sales mentality where, hey, I've got this product and it's so great. And let me just run off 87 things about why I've the greatest product and service for you or the greatest fucking deal for you. But you don't even know what my needs are. Right. Because you never took the time to actually ask.
100%.
You just practiced your pitch, assuming that the person receiving the pitch was the same person every time.
But they might not be a motivated seller, right? It's like you just want to hang out, right? You want to have a conversation. It's like, hey, what are you seeing right now? What are you struggling with? What do you need help? And you're going to right then say to me like, okay, great. This guy's here to help me and not like for a self-serving reason.
Right. And when it's a self-serving reason, it can be felt.
Correct.
And that person is going to be resistant to it. And I always say, like, I always want to be the brokest, dumbest guy in the room, but I never, ever talk about money. I have plenty of 9-figure guys on my phone, probably even a couple of billionaires. Never is money even remotely a conversation. First of all, I'm not equipped to have those personally, but what I can do is something they're used to or they're not used to, which is to add value to who they are as a human being, to get to know them as a person.
Absolutely.
And trust me, people always gravitate toward the person that can make them feel good, makes them laugh, makes them smile. And if you guys like each other enough and the opportunities and the lanes are there, the business will open up itself.
Absolutely.
So I always say, I know how to make money.
Yeah.
But, what it really is about relationship capital. And it took me 45 years, I'm 47 now, to really realize what my superpower was.
Yeah.
It's my heart and my ability with people.
Yeah.
So whether I was in a prison cell or whether I'm talking to, a guy who's worth 9 figures or even, closing in on 10 at a Tony Robbins event or even Tony Robbins himself when I got to speak to him, I get to speak to him one-on-one.
That's awesome.
It's fucking me and him talking like two you know, I wouldn't say friends, but two acquaintances.
But just having a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to pick your brain. Oh my God, Tony Robbins in front of me. Let me see what I can extract from him. Like, we're not there for that.
Yeah.
We're there to just, and that's how I really gained the confidence to know, like, oh, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I am really good at this. And it took me to get into those rooms with Zenith and these places where I was like, okay, maybe your story is wildly different than everybody else's, but you're a human being just like anybody else. And what they actually value from me is the fact that I don't give a fuck about the money. Yeah. Because if you're there, you know how to make money.
Yeah.
Right? But maybe there's something else. And like you said, these people that we hold on a pedestal because of what they own, possess, normal people.
Yeah.
And they got normal problems that maybe don't look like yours.
Right.
But they're problems nonetheless. So it all gravitates back to us being human beings. We're gonna do something creative and just start the show with our conversation, and then I'll introduce you. So they're like, "Who the fuck's he talking to today?" But in studio, man, you've been hearing Dave and I chop it up. David Perlleshi is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, and community builder recognized for developing local economic growth, small business empowerment, and leadership transformation. Instead of repeating cycles, he broke them. And through entrepreneurship, real estate, and high-performance routine, David built a life grounded in structure, integrity, and personal ownership. Today, he mentors young men and aspiring entrepreneurs, helping them unlock potential they never knew they had in the field of real estate. More specifically, storage is his game. And just a little bit of backstory. First of all, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me.
The last name, David Perlleshi, right? It struck me because I'm on social media. He comes across my feed, and I see him, and he's in his neighborhood with, I believe, some of your cousins or uncles even who are in the multifamily and the real estate space. And the last name just jumps out at me because I used to go to school with Agron Perlleshi. Shout out to Agron, who's my age.
Yeah.
And congrats, I heard you finally decided to have kids too, brother. Just like me, we stalled. And I just hit him up. I'm like, hey, how do you know Agron? Or do you know Agron? He goes, yeah, that's my cousin. And it was instant connection. And we've been going back and forth since. We exchanged numbers and we've been locking into this date. And even though we missed each other at ICSC a couple of days ago, here we are. So welcome to the show again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Officially.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. And Agron said really nice things about you from back in the day. He was always an honest and good person. And he was like, yeah, jump on the podcast with him. So it's an honor to be here and I appreciate your time.
It's an honor to have you. I want to get a little bit of your background and then you can share with our audience exactly what you do. And, you know, the whole premise of the show is a couple of things. You know, we speak to either community-based leaders who are doing things like God's work in the community to uplift others. And then we also speak to entrepreneurs like myself. And I think that a big part of the issue that I'm trying to tackle in communities of color is ignorance. And it's not ignorance in a bad sense. It's ignorance in the fact that we don't know so much. Yeah. And I, off camera, was telling you about Agron growing up. We knew he had money. We knew his parents and his uncles were in real estate and they owned a bunch of buildings on Pelham Parkway. We know they lived in a nice neighborhood and he wore nicer clothes than us. And he was a tough son of a bitch too, considering he came from a background that we would have thought was comfortable because he had that Albanian immigrant mentality that he was raised by and you were raised by, which is scrappy, to say the least, because you guys come from a country that is very tumultuous. And just like any immigrant story here in America, when you come over, you carry that culture, you carry that energy, carry the food and the music and all the other beautiful things that come with it. So what was growing up in Westchester like for you under these circumstances with an old school Albanian family?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so my parents immigrated to the United States in 1989. I was born in 90. I was born in the Bronx. You know, was at PS 97, I believe.
96, baby.
For halfway through kindergarten. So I definitely didn't grow up in the Bronx.
Right.
And moved to Westchester County at the age of 5. And a lot of kind of growing up, what was instilled in us was just honor, integrity, respect, discipline. And we took that every single day to school and to our jobs down the road and our friendships and relationships. And I think, you know, growing up in the household that we did, I like to tell my, American friends, it was like two worlds, right? You know, you'd be outside of the house and that would be America and school and studies and your friends. And then within our house was, speaking the native tongue, Albanian, and there's the rules and legacies and stories, and then your extended family members. For me, I have 65 first cousins. So we have a big family on both my mom's and dad's side. And one thing that I learned early on was just how hard my parents worked every single day. My dad works as a union employee in 32 BJ. He's a handyman, and my mom grew up and she was cleaning homes, and now she does elderly home care. So just kind of seeing like what they do day to day and how hard they're working every single day. And it was really to be put in better schools, better neighborhood, and give us an opportunity. And I always valued and cherished all the hard work that they put in, because it wasn't for them, right? It was for us. Right. And it was to put us and give us a better opportunity and give us the opportunity to go to school and become business people and create our own path. So that was always really, really valuable, just being in the house and discipline and the lessons learned. However, as I started to, go through high school, I fell in love with the sport of baseball. And, baseball isn't normal to our culture. I mean, soccer more in Europe. Right,
of course.
And
everywhere else for that matter.
Yeah. And it was something I just fell in love with, and I was quite good. I started playing at 12 years old, and had some letdowns in middle school and early in high school. And then finally fast forward to about 15 years old, made varsity, starting shortstop, and just putting all the work in. And that was able to kind of get me through college as a full scholarship athlete. And from there was able to just expand my horizons into really, the rest of America, and being able to travel to Florida and, the rest of the Northeast and out West and Texas. And that kind of gave me the opportunity where it's like, hey, there's more than just this New York bubble and Westchester and the Bronx. There's a bigger world out there for business. So, I don't want to get too.
No, not at all, brother. What was some of your early days like? So you went to school. What college did you go to?
So I went to Concordia College in Bronxville.
Okay, so you played college. You had scholarship. What was it that you studied?
Business administration, so general business.
And what did you have in mind for yourself early on?
I didn't really know. I mean, the whole purpose of, let me rewind a little bit. Had I never played baseball, I probably would have never went to college. Right. And I just wasn't a great student. It was always very hard for me to concentrate in school. I wasn't really passionate about any of the studies that we were doing. And for lack of a better, word, I was kind of a troublemaker for most of my life, and a little bit of a menace. And I didn't really get into, tighten up really until I started playing ball. And I had like a coach that really kind of helped, create me into, build me into a man, into like a professional.
And what do you say that was? Like just the discipline?
The discipline. Yeah, the discipline.
See, entrepreneurs by nature, you say you are a menace. And I think entrepreneurs are menaces.
Yeah.
We refuse to be like everybody else.
Right.
So you're showing signs of this, but you have this mentor early on in the form of a coach who kind of molds you.
Yeah.
And says, all right, kid, you got the right tools, but we need to
harness
this and focus this.
Yeah.
And what are you doing on the way out of college? Like, because then you still don't know. And I appreciate the honesty. Nobody fucking knows.
No. So, I mean, really in college, what I started looking at, was that, hey, I'm probably not going to be a professional baseball player, and I'm probably not going to replace Derek Jeter at shortstop.
I'm like, coming from Concordia College, playing for the Yankees.
So then I started looking for other opportunities. But one thing early on that always inspired me was my uncles. My uncle Mike, my uncle Mark, and they were just powerful figures, just in general. You'd walk into the house and their presence was like, you can sense their presence.
They were men.
Yeah, they were men. And they were powerful people in the sense of like very respectful, driven by family and values. And they just so happened to be pretty well off. They've invested a lot into real estate. And as a kid, seeing that and it wasn't just the clothes and the suits and the cars and the mansions they were living in, but it was just like the people that they were and how giving they were and how hospitable they were and how powerful they were as community figures. So respected. I always very respected. So I always really, admired them in that sense. So I knew from a young age. And, my dad used to always tell me, like, what do you think about your uncles? And he would kind of like nudge me a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I want to be just like them.
Right.
And it was beautiful to see. And having that, those figures around all the time was something that I really valued. So throughout college, I knew I wanted to be in real estate. During winter break, I would go ahead and intern with them at their office there in the Bronx and Pelham Parkway. And I would just, go in there, wear a suit like my uncles, suit and tie,
play the part
and go there and see them wheeling and dealing. It was nice.
And your dad was all right? Because you mentioned, what do you think about your uncles? Do you think there was any kind of envy there? And not to disrespect your dad, just because your dad was a working guy. Mm-hmm. And then you have these very wealthy businessmen, both in the same family.
Yeah.
Was your father supportive of you, kind of respecting your uncle and kind of looking up to them? Or was there kind of a threat like, maybe they're doing better or, I'm not doing as good as I can? Because we talked about the mindset. And it's not a disrespect to your dad. Or
No, absolutely not. I think where it was with my dad is there was such a big age gap, right? My two uncles are the two eldest, and my dad is the second youngest of 9. So for my dad, always growing up, they were also father figures for him. Like my dad remembers being 5 years old and they were men. They were working in different countries. They'd come and visit the house in Kosovo. Gotcha. So the way he looked at them was very similar in that sense. And when my dad moved to the country, they helped him out with putting him into an apartment, making him a super one of the buildings, and really kind of essentially educating him and telling, hey, like, it's not easy here. We're not going to put money in your pocket. You're going to have to earn everything you do. And for my dad did invest in multifamily and some properties, not to the extent of owning hundreds and thousands of apartments in the city, but he was doing that on the side. And I think that's what really kind of helped inspire him into investing as well. And the same thing for my mother was seeing figures in our community and direct family members doing that as well. So I think my dad was always doing that as like a nudge in a very not pushy way as a father, but in a way where it was like, hey, like, you should probably be like these guys,
right?
Because like they live good lives and like wink, wink. Like,
this is the American dream.
Correct.
And they're living it. And they're not the sons or daughters of immigrants. They're the ones that came over and built the American dream. So kudos to them.
Absolutely.
Because that was what I felt when I met Agron. It was like, well, there's something different about this guy. There's something different about these people. And we knew of Albanians, we weren't really, it was an insulated culture and they're not, we're hanging out with Dominicans and shit because it just is the way it is. But I mean, you could feel it. And I think you touched on that, is you could feel the difference. So
one thing with Sean that my dad really instilled in me growing up, and my mom did as well, but my dad would always repeat this to me. And it's always stuck with me every single day was, you're going to be very successful, you tell me. As a kid, you're going to be very successful. You're going to be very entrepreneurial. One thing I want you to always remember in life is don't screw anybody. Just always do the right thing. Always do the right thing in business. Always do the right thing in life. And he said, the worst thing in this world is to be successful and have to look over your shoulder. He's like, you want to be successful, do it on your own and be honest and have integrity. Because no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you can poke your chest out. And you can always say, I did this, I built this by always doing the right thing and not doing the wrong thing. That's one thing that like always like instilled me, because I think as an entrepreneur, I think as a person, as a leader, and as somebody that's just out there doing business every day, it does cross your mind sometimes. Hey, being a little bit dishonest, or hey, maybe I can, say this to this person and get this person to come my way, and this, and play people against one another. But I think that always comes back to like the way you grow up and how you were raised and having integrity. And that's one thing that I've realized where early in life, and especially early in my business career, and even now every single day, it's like, can I get ahead faster by being dishonest and not being a genuine person? Sure, absolutely. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if people don't want to do business with me because I'm authentic and I'm being 100% honest in what I'm doing every day, so be it. I'm going to find the relationships and the people that I want to create long-term business with.
And they weren't your people in the first place.
Exactly.
That's one of the reasons I got on this mission was I was so hesitant because I built this life after prison and I got to hide and I'm living in the suburbs. And why would I ever fuck up this comfortable life I created? But it just didn't feel real. Mm-hmm. And, a few years ago, I stopped drinking. I decided, this is my calling and I'm supposed to go help people and be the light and show them that you can do this too. but it's scary as fuck. But yeah, I've cut corners in the past and it always comes back, home to roost. But honesty was always one of the highest things on my value list. And I'll tell you a funny story before we move on. A chapter in the book called The Honest Hustler. So even when I was hustling, I always had a job, but I would sell knockoff clothes on the side, right? Like fake Jordans, fake Uptowns, fake True Religions. And I remember like moms or people, are these real? I'll be like, ma'am, you're buying them out of the trunk of my car. Right. They're not real, but I'm charging you $60. In the store, they're real. It costs $160. I just don't want you to go home and your kid is going to tell you, hey, mom, these are fake. But there's guys in the street that would sell them for $130 or $140 and say, yeah, you're getting $20 off. And then you just felt cheated. So on any level, honesty is definitely something that can serve you. Maybe not in the moment as much as being dishonest, but boy, it comes back to haunt you. And you also get to feel good about what you're doing. So you go to school, we're rewinding. What's your early career like before you shift into doing the thing that you've been seeing all your life? And then, were there any obstacles to you personally getting over your mental hurdle of saying, fuck, I'm going to go take a chance on this thing that doesn't guarantee me any paycheck?
Yeah, no, there was, so early on, right after I graduated college, I started like coaching baseball and giving back on that front. And I went back to the New York Nine and was a coach. And that was a travel program I was a part of. And that helped me earn a, full scholarship in college. So I was helping on the coaching side in the summer. I took some time off and same thing in the fall. And then dad started to kind of nudge me again saying, hey man, like interviews, job, like you can't just live home for free now and, make ends meet with this, coaching job. So I started interviewing. I had a few interviews in the city, which went really well. And then I reached back out to a high school teacher of mine in Eastchester High School, Mr. Reynolds, Rob Reynolds. And, he had invited me down to Florida for an internship the year before when I was looking for internships. And I essentially just said, hey, like I'm okay. I have a internship lined up with Douglas Elliman in the city. Well, anyway, I reached back out to him and said, hey, I'm looking for job opportunities. And they flew me down to Tampa, Florida. They showed me this firm that they're a part of. And at the time I was a little bit naive, like maybe they're buying, triplexes, duplexes. Got down there, they're buying 50, 100 unit multifamily complexes. So it was my first job opportunity at that point. And they went from owning 1,500 apartments when I got down there in 2012 to quickly within 18 months owning 15,000. Wow. So being a part of that firm was a life changer for me. And really like the biggest decision to go down was on me. And it was like, hey, am I going to separate myself from the community, from my family here in Westchester, where, I don't have a lot of first cousins that ever left their homes after college. And I essentially had to like have a sit down with my parents, and my mom said, go for it. And my dad said something to me that really resonated. And he was like, if I was born and raised in this country and I played baseball and I got my first job opportunity to go down to Florida, because I wouldn't ask anybody, I would take off. He's like, go do it. Go be a man, enjoy your life. And that really meant a lot to me. That stage of my career, because, you're going off on your own. You're trying, your life on your own. And that's exactly what happened. And I went down there, built my way up through the company, learned how to invest in multifamily properties. About 5 years at that firm, I was, looking for ways to do things and what to do on the entrepreneurial side. And it was always itching. And I ended up essentially starting to syndicate some multifamily deals. So syndicated a few 50-unit multifamily deals, left that firm and, was out there. I started a small little construction company, which is a lot of fun. And
a lot of headaches, I'm sure.
And a lot of headaches. And it was great. And then essentially I got this opportunity. And it was funny because you're going and you start your career and I'm making $32,000 a year. I got a pay bump up to 50. And then I'm at 65 and I'm like, okay, well, next year I'll get a $5,000 increase. Next year I'll get a $10,000 increase. And I was like, hey, like what's going on here? And finally I jumped ship and I got another job opportunity and I was getting paid 110. That big shift happened in like my mid to late 20s. And everybody used to always tell me like, once you start working for yourself, you're always going to make more. And that jump happened pretty quickly once I started working for myself and, jumped to 175, then 200 plus. And essentially at that point in my career, I noticed that I have to hustle. I have to grind. I have to do things on my own. And, for me, it was a wake up call, and it was probably organic for me because it was like something I was always itching to do and be on the entrepreneurial side. So it was like doing deals on the side, syndicating for multifamily opportunities, starting like little companies here and there, acting as an owner representative for certain real estate portfolios where, I was essentially a glorified broker in a sense, where I'm like overseeing the operation, the renovations, and getting those properties to stabilization to eventually sell.
But you're seeing all the little details that are allowing you to gain the confidence to eventually go off on your own.
Absolutely.
It's like an internship with shitty pay as opposed to no pay.
Exactly.
Which they pay you a little more as time goes on to keep you, but just enough to satiate you so you don't leave.
Absolutely.
So what's the turning point? What's the catalyst? What actually happens where you say, I've had enough? Or it was just a confidence thing where you say, all right, I'm ready now?
It was just like more of a confidence thing where it was like, hey, like I'm ready to do this now. I'm kind of just burned out from the corporate way of doing things. You're very limited as far as your growth, where you can go next. And, for me, I think the biggest thing was like I was looking for a pretty significant pay bump. Yeah. And we weren't seeing eye to eye on that pay bump. And, till this day, I think I 100% deserved it.
You knew what you were worth.
But it was, I was really butthurt about it. I was really emotional about it. The fact that I wasn't able to get that increase. And I remember having the conversation again, going back to my father and saying, hey, this happened. He's like, what are you upset about?
Yeah.
They gave you your answer. Now it's time to move on,
So your parents are extremely supportive of this whole process.
Absolutely.
Super supportive. I think they also saw the proof with your uncles.
Yeah.
Because if they hadn't,
like,
they're not going to be like, yeah, son. They're going to be like, take that fucking $150,000. What are you bitching about?
Yeah, exactly.
Stop complaining. You're ungrateful. That's why I'm so committed to the family.
Yeah.
Because I know the value of me sticking it out.
Yeah.
Planting the seeds. My daughter the other day, she goes, Daddy, do I have to go to college? And, me being careful about it, because I personally, I'm like, what a waste of time. Not from a social perspective, but from a business perspective, it was. I was just like, no, honey, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah.
So the seed's been planted.
Yeah.
And I was just mindful of it because I didn't want to overstep. I didn't want to shit on college because that's her choice. Should she be an academic? You need to go to school for certain things. But you and I both know at this point, there's so many more valuable things that you need and pass down to your kids. That
100%.
Going to college. And by the time, my kids are in school, it's going to be what, 120 grand a year?
Yeah.
To go to college?
It's crazy.
Get the fuck out
It's
of here.
gonna be
To
crazy,
come home and make what, 100 of inflated bullshit money?
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy how that whole, I think with AI and everything, it's not even going to be, college is just not going to be a thing. So, as I was saying, having the support of your parents in your corner and kind of having your uncles as the blueprint for what success could be on a high level, you now go off on your own.
Yeah.
What's that look like in the early days? Because it sounded like you had the Douglas Elliman gig,
internship,
and you the shitty paid internship. You're learning all the inner workings.
Yeah.
What are some of your first deals look like outside of syndication where it's all you?
Yeah, I mean that was just like really sourcing those opportunities and just through the relationships. And there were multifamily deals at that time. And I think when I first got into the multifamily business, one of my skill sets and what I was essentially doing over there was a project manager and construction manager. So I'd go into a property that's 50 units. I'd see 15 down units where every other investor, or probably 95% of investors out there, would be really afraid and saying, hey, there's a lot of down units. I would see that as gold and just say, hey, like I have the subcontractors to do this work and do it for probably a third of the cost that every other investor would be able to do it, because that's essentially what I was doing by trade. So I found just properties in rough markets and rough areas that were underserved in workforce housing, and wanted to see where they were like well below market rates and where the property just needed a significant amount of like facelift in terms of the CapEx side. Because that was my comparative advantage in the business at that time, was that one, I could source deals, and two, I could do construction work for probably a third of the cost versus any other investor out there.
Now, why is that? Why are you able to do it for a third of the cost? What's different, or what's the mentality difference?
Because at the time, I was managing for Avesta, I was managing 100 to 400 unit complexes and acquisitions. And I was overseeing those deals and doing all the construction facelifts on all those properties. So every single day I was bidding out work, whether it was like roofers or painters or plumbers, electricians, architects and just everything on the subcontractor side. So I built this like network of contractors that were doing great work for a great price, where, another investor may just go to a general contractor and a GC and say, hey, can you get this work done for me? And they're getting slapped on an extra 20 or 30% on top of, the subcontractor work.
Right.
So that was where my comparative advantage was. And I wasn't afraid of those projects. So I did a few of those and was really happy about the progress and how those deals turned out. Kept like working on them and stabilizing them. And then I had an opportunity through one of my mom's friends in the city where they were at a dinner party and my mom's friend's son essentially asked, like, what does your son do? And she told him he syndicates. And he was like, oh, I do the same exact thing on the self-storage side. And I'm buying, underperforming self-storage assets in the Southeast. And he's like, I'd love to meet him. I met Dan. We had a great conversation. He brought me in as a partner in the firm. And it was a small family office based out of New York City. And we essentially, over the course of the next 3 years, we sourced 13 off-market self-storage facilities, all of which were mom and pop owner and operated. And every single deal had room for expansion. So that was where like my strong, my forte,
right.
And what I knew by trade was going in there and the deal making side and sourcing those opportunities, meeting the owners in person and that authenticity and the handshaking of getting a deal done. And then on the execution side, post acquisition, going in there and doing all the necessary CapEx work on the existing asset to, go ahead and get it to institutional quality. And that included new asphalt, decorative fencing, painting, new signage, improved lighting, a nice, beautiful office to get customers in and out of. And then also every deal had an expansion component where we'd build single story or multi-story climate controlled buildings. So that's how we were able to get it to like the institutional quality and then institutional size of those facilities. So
you're taking existing storage units, but then you're actually expanding them because you've already got all the paperwork, you've got the regulations, but you can actually build on what's been given to you. And you're not scared to do it.
Correct. Because there's room available. There's additional land available. And in our space, if you have 20 or 30,000 square feet, we consider that sub-institutional size or really a smaller asset. Once you get to 50,000 square feet plus, it becomes institutional size. Or for lack of a better term, like this is where the big REITs and the big companies then are attracted to those investment opportunities.
Compete.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
so,
we're kind of
so we're essentially building out our portfolio to roll up to those larger groups and institutions.
And I see it for you in the very near future, my friend. I see it because everything you're explaining to me is the gradual education and expansion of everything you've learned.
Absolutely.
Everything that you've told me, you've broken down. It's basically, I'm going to learn this thing. I'm really good at it. Oh, wait, avenue. And then it's expansion and expansion and expansion. So I can't imagine that stopping anytime soon. And that's got to be exciting. But why, and this may be for the audience more than you and I, why not just stick to what you knew and what your family did, the multifamily? Why all of a sudden self-storage? Tell our audience what some of the benefits of that is versus multifamily, which may sound so exciting to own units, but tell them why it's not. So
for one thing is, for storage, you're not dealing with plumbing issues inside the units. You're not dealing with any electricity issues. It's 4 metal walls and people are storing their stuff. And it might be stuff that they keep in their attics. Might be stuff they keep in their basements. It might be stuff they keep in their driveways or in their garages. But essentially to free up additional space. In storage, our expense ratio, the average expense ratio is about 35%. Where a multifamily, now if we're looking at New York City multifamily, that expense ratio is north of 50. I'm hearing 70, 80, 85%.
It depends on the neighborhood. And
your profit margins aren't there. Where storage, you're looking at a 35% expense ratio, your profit margin is there, about 65%.
And
So-
David is being kind. He mentioned the one factor that I was going to kind of lean on, which is people.
Yes.
You're not dealing with people and all the variables that come along with that.
Exactly. And then where the advantage is really for storage is their month-to-month leases. So the malleability of the asset class, be able to change rates essentially overnight. So if we go ahead and get in higher taxes or we get a higher insurance bill, we can change that really quickly by raising rents $5 across the board per tenant. So we're able to offset those expenses where in multifamily, you may have a year or 2 year leases in place and you really can't do anything for a while there. Same thing in retail side of the business. We're in shopping centers where you may have, 3, 5, 7, 10 year leases, some of them 15 years and 20 year leases locked in. And that's a little bit different, triple net and double net and stuff of that nature. And I understand that. However, there's a lot of advantages for storage as far as the malleability and being able to go in there very quickly and change rates.
Yeah. And triple net is what we do. And it's very unsexy, but it's very safe. But, I'm learning now a couple years in all the things I had no idea about because, we've got to re-sign leases or we've got tenants leaving or we got options that we got to, find out what's going on. We got a couple of tenants that are due to leave, but we can't even ask them, hey, you going to stay? We got to kind of wait till a certain period's up before we can even approach that. But each class comes with its own pros and its own cons. How long have you been in the self-storage space?
So I've been in self-storage now since 2017. That firm House and Street that I was mentioning earlier, we acquired 13 deals, sold half of them. Fast forward to 2020, the firm needed to go ahead and essentially show a proof of concept and lease up all those deals. As you're doubling and tripling the size of those facilities, you don't have people moving in overnight. So it takes about 36 months to lease up and get it to stabilization. So we were basically, my partner at that time, Frank at that firm, and myself, they were basically told hey, we're going to try and stabilize these things. You guys can hang out. We're going to go and pause for acquisitions, which being a partner at a firm kind of hurts you a little bit because, you're getting a percentage of deals and you stop doing deals and all of a sudden you're not really getting paid on the back end. And we decided to jump into self-storage brokerage. And we got into self-storage brokerage in 2020. And that's essentially what I've been doing since. So by trade, by day, I'm a self-storage advisor and broker. And, still investing in storage on the side and still investing in land development sites and just finding other ways and creative ways of investing in storage. But by focus and what we do day to day is building out our brokerage business. And it started out as me and my partner, Frank, on that side. And then now we're a team of 7 people. We have 3 support staff, 4 full-time brokers. And we've closed over 200 self-storage deals in the last 4 years. And our team is expanding year over year. And we're really happy with how things have progressed and what we're doing day to day. But more importantly, it's about the growth and the struggles of a good market, a rough market, a bad market, whatever we want to call this right now.
No one knows. Only time will tell.
Yeah, only time will tell. Yeah, but it's been a lot of fun, and it's been. I would have never thought, by the way, Sean, I would ever be a broker.
And no one ever does think that they're going to end up where they end up.
Yeah, it never crossed my mind. But I think where I was able to differentiate myself was that I've been on the ownership side. I am on the ownership side. And because of my skill set on construction management, I can speak to the new construction sites. I can speak to the work that's being done on the construction side of these deals. Also, I can speak to just the ownership side of these deals. So when I'm having a conversation with an owner-operator, I know the exact struggles they're dealing with and they're going through. And if I'm not currently dealing with them myself on my properties, I'm dealing with it, I've dealt with it in the past on our other properties and other deals and opportunities that we've been through. So I think that was one thing where I was able to really kind of differentiate myself in the self-storage brokerage business. But more importantly now, what I've been really trying to put out there is, I have this family that's in the real estate business. And my family in the real estate business, they're not very transactional. They're not selling their assets.
Right.
They're buying and holding forever. So now I have a conversation with an owner and saying, hey, I'm not selling, I'm passing it down to my kids. I'm like, I totally get it. My family's the same exact way. They never sell. And we're able to, connect through that and understand things change and things evolve in life and how can we help and serve you guys in any way. And maybe it's not going to be something that's going to be directly transactional with that client in the imminent future or in the next 2 to 3 years, but it could be something down the road where they look to acquire another asset.
Right.
Or they need some help maybe buying a new management company, or there could be several reasons for why they may come to you as a resource for whatever reason, but it's more or less to just develop a genuine connection relationship.
Let's talk about relationships, because that is something I'm hearing over and over again. And that is, aside from your unique ability with contracting, your unique ability I'm getting too is people and relationships. Tell our audience that may not have resources, that this may be like, all right, this all sounds good and well, but I don't have money. I don't have this knowledge. But the one thing they do have is mouth, their ability to make connections with other human beings. How can that serve someone who's just getting started out? And what are some of the things they might want to focus on, or how can they approach building a career around not having any resources, but just having hunger, and maybe some of the people they need to get next to in order to find some level of success?
I would say just hanging around the hoop, man. You got to hang around people that are doing that type of stuff. And if you have a friend who's in the real estate business, asking them questions every single day, trying to shadow them as best they can. Maybe it's after hours, maybe it's in the weekends. I think it's building those connections with those types of people in that industry you want to be in. I think this is something I've learned in the past where, you have your friends, and your friends are always going to be your friends no matter what, right? Like, your friends are going to be doing good and bad things potentially. You grow up with these people, and by default, you're going to always be their friends. However, that doesn't mean that's who you need to associate with every single day. And I think people don't understand that difference, right? Like, your friends are always your friends, but like, who are you associating with every day? And that's a big difference that I've seen, that how I've been able to change my perspective, my situations, where it's like, change the circles you're in. You want to be a real estate investor? Start hanging around real estate investors, right? You want to be a thug? Hang around thugs. It's that easy.
So on and so forth. Yeah.
But with that being said, I think finding somebody that's willing to not essentially take you under their wing, but be around those conversations, be around the discussions. And by the way, it's normal to be at a dinner table with people that are all talking about how to, buy deals, do transactions, make more money, and do things like that, because a lot of these people are in the business for those reasons. And normalizing being successful and normalizing wanting more for yourself, more for your family, because that's what gives you the opportunity to help others around you. You can't be somebody that's just struggling to get by every single day and being able to help others. Yes, you can help in the sense of like with your time, but really the people that can help most are the people with the most resources.
Absolutely.
So being around those folks every single day. So that's one thing I would say is, the way you can educate yourself is now through podcasts, through reading books, and just finding out who in your network knows somebody that's doing that business and offering a helping hand and offering some way to do things.
Yeah. And that was it. It's adding value.
Absolutely.
So you may not have resources, but if you want to get next to these people, also, you want to ask questions, but you need to consider, how can I be valuable to this person?
Yeah.
And that may be running for coffee. It may be, sweeping up. It may just be doing things you don't necessarily want to do, or you may think you're above.
Right.
But the truth is, you are able to extract far more valuable information than, let's say, trading your time for some money that they may pay you. So I jokingly said it was a very unwell paid internship that you started, but the knowledge that you gained there was priceless, where you were eventually able to go off on your own and start these incredible things that you do now. And then I see you out here on social media, not only building more relationships, but sharing the information.
Yeah.
And giving it away.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned podcasts, and there's all kinds of resources. Social media, I think, is one of the greatest resources we have, but it is often misused because we're so distracted by all the bullshit, whether it be politics or the bikinis, if that's what you like, or whatever it is. The algorithm's just going to feed you more of it.
Yeah.
But if you're hungry for that knowledge, it's also going to, in turn, feed you more of that. So the way that I found you was you were interviewing, I believe, your uncles at their office in Pelham Parkway. And I was really, really moved by it because they were extremely supportive of other Albanian immigrants that came in. and they worked with them. Do you feel that, interning there younger too and seeing those things had a big impact on how you do business and treat others today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's one thing where, I saw that early on in my internships and conversations and people saying, hey, know your uncles very well. They helped me out. And, I moved to this country and, they gave me a place to live and discounted rent and didn't raise my rent for a bunch of years. And it was just showing that, hey, like through real estate and through wealth creation, you can help people. Yeah. Like that's the only time you can really help people in a meaningful way. A lot of the time, and is by helping them, giving them a place to live, and in turn, by keeping the rent lower, you're putting more money in their pockets to help establish them in this country. But primarily, what I really started to kind of see was, Sean, that not only my uncles had such a positive impact in the community, but all the people that I've been around and surrounded by in the Albanian community and extended family members, friends I made, other Albanian friends I made friends with in college, who are also very established families. And, I've been very lucky because the people I've been surrounded in my family and extended family, as well as friends, have all been entrepreneurial, first generation or immigrant Albanians that have really created empires. Yeah. And they're like titans of like these industries, whether it's construction or hospitality or the restaurant business, or, real estate entrepreneurship. Like these people are real titans in our industry. And what I realized was like, hey, I need to switch up my social media presence a little bit and less about talking about what I'm doing and the services I provide for my clients, and more about what the connections of the people that I know in my community and sharing their story with, first generation, kids in our community, and, maybe the immigrants in our communities, and saying, hey, I know our community has a lot of negative stigmas and narratives that people float around, but I don't know those people. I didn't grow up around those people. I don't associate myself with those people. Right. The only people I know from the Albanian community are go-getters and hustlers and, titans of their industries and entrepreneurs and people who are not only just wealthy in terms of what they've been able to do in their respective businesses, but genuinely good people that love their families, that respect their families, respect others, and treat others well. And yes, there's always one-offs in every community, all people out there. But I'm just, it became for me a thing where I was just like sick and tired of hearing like the negative stereotypes. Yeah. And it was like, okay, let me change the narrative now by going to our community and having discussions and interviews about these beautiful businesses that these people are creating, because, it took a lot of balls to do what they did. And, they put it all on the table, and oftentimes they invest their entire, life savings. And on top of that, they're getting help from their friends and their community, loans and personal loans to try and like build those businesses. And it's really hard to do that. And it's inspiring what they've done. So what I'm trying to do through social media is inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. And I don't know, it's Gen Zers or kids in grade school or whatever it is, or whoever it is now. But like, hey, like we are a good community. We are a powerful community. And don't be disappointed by the negative stories. Be inspired by the figures in our community. And they're not hard to reach. No. You can DM these people, you can text these people, you can call these people, and they're going to answer.
Successful people are wildly helpful.
Yeah.
I think there's a barrier that unsuccessful people have. This guy thinks he's all. No, he doesn't think anything. No. They don't think any. You think
he thinks he's just like you.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, this kid wants help. How can I help him? And I think that we talked, the mental block of it.
Yeah.
It's just a story that people have created to keep themselves safe.
Correct.
And in the same space. Right. But it's so not true. No, it's like when you mentioned Albanian when I was a kid, it was like, oh, those are some badass motherfuckers. Don't fuck with them. And they own a lot of real estate. Yeah. That was the only two things I knew. And the girls were just as crazy as the Latin girls too, from what I remember. But it's just, it's stereotypes. But you are now playing on a beautiful one, which is family connection, uplifting, and building a community. That is America. That's the immigrant story. And I'd be remiss if I don't tease you. So when are we going to see you buckle down and start that amazing family for yourself?
Soon.
And how hard is your mom and dad pushing on that button now?
They're pushing on me. They're pushing on me, but I'm just about ready now. So
he's in Florida, guys.
Yeah. So I'm 35 now, and you know when that happens, it'll speed up the process very quickly. So it'll be wedding, kids immediately. So
yeah, listen. Well, you know what? Once we get it out of our system, right, it's full throttle. But it's better to get it out of your system or be sure you got the right one and the right mindset before you do something, and then you're kind of living in regret. And I teasingly, tease your cousin. He waited almost as long as I did, or actually longer. Shit, because we're the same age, and my kids are a little older. So listen, I'm wishing you the best, brother. Let our audience know directly in the camera where they can find out more about you, what you're doing, social media, obviously. Yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just follow me on social media, David Perlleshi _CRE. David Perlleshi on Twitter. Same thing on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm very responsive on my DMs, and more than happy to help any way I can. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be on here.
Man.
And appreciate the conversation, and wish we got to talk a little bit more about you here. I feel like I was, just answering questions the whole time.
This is a platform for my guests and my audience. I mean, I have my own social media page. I fucking can talk till I'm blue in the face. But this is really about extracting information that can help others, brother. And I commend you for going off and kind of shifting the message from yourself to others. And, that's the process. It's having the balls to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And nobody loves to talk about themselves more than themselves. That's just a natural human characteristic, unless you're an introvert. You're going to talk about yourself. But then at some point, you're kind of like, I need to make this about others. But it takes the growth of being selfish first, because that's just by nature what humans are. No matter where you come from, you're going to talk about you. But then you kind of get them, oh, no, this isn't about me. This is about what I can add to the world. So again, you're like, oh, I want to be successful. And you go next to the person, how do I get successful? Well, you got to add value to that person so that they want to give you more information and bring you along. And then you go out there and you're confident in your own abilities to do things, but then your ego kind of takes a backseat. So what you're explaining is just the process of having the balls to actually go out and do it. So I'm excited to see what's next, because I know how many people you're going to help in the process of going out and giving people their own platforms to talk about, whether it's self-storage or what the Albanian community's been able to do and how they've been able to uplift each other. And that's the same goal I'm trying to do here, which is to change the narrative from, hey, let's count on this government that keeps telling us they're going to help us, to, hey, we have plenty of people, and they don't have to come from where you come from. They don't have to look like you, smell like you, believe like you, but we can extract that information and we can use it to build our own community, because no one's going to come build the fucking community.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened, from just speaking honestly from my perspective of, black and brown. We have been maybe a couple of generations removed from that immigrant culture. So my grandparents were Dominican immigrants, and they came here fleeing persecution in the 60s.
Wow.
So we've been here 60 years. But my wife, they didn't come here till the 80s, and they're also Dominican. So that's like a whole different generation of Dominicans that came here for different reasons. But I wish my grandparents were alive to see me, doing what I'm doing now, because ultimately that's why we come here.
Right.
For a better fucking life.
Yeah.
And I always say, America's a country full of immigrants where the new group of immigrants is spit on by the old group of immigrants. But it is on us to lift each other up. Yeah. And I think immigrants get that more than people who have been here for a few generations but haven't been able to achieve a level of success. So then it becomes a bitterness almost.
Right.
But no one's coming to give you anything.
Absolutely.
You're going to have to earn this shit. But you're going to have to take a hard look in the mirror and say, well, what am I doing to move my life forward? Am I blaming, or am I blaming me? So if you blame you, at least you can, okay, what can I do to be better? So I appreciate you coming, sharing whatever information, and I'm wishing you all the best, like I said, in going out and doing that, because by giving that good energy in the world, what you're doing, both knowingly and unknowingly, is you're putting good energy into your relationship capital. And the reason that I give people a platform is I don't know that we'll do business today or in 5 years or 10, I don't care. But it's very likely that you and I getting to sit here, getting to know each other, opens the door for something greater.
Absolutely.
Because there's no selfishness. So again, my friend, thank you very
Awesome.
much
Thanks
for coming
having me.
on.
Appreciate it.
David Perlleshi, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on. You're going to find all his information in the bio. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Real Mentors podcast. And as always, let's get it.